My friends, I've got my great friend Dave Seitter back in the house. You're like, TD, why back in the house? Because on episode 299, Dave and I had a deep discussion when it comes to mergers and acquisition, where he spent the majority of his career as an M&A attorney. And y'all got a plethora of content and knowledge. But I want to bring Dave back on the show to talk about more impact and some things he's doing to really make a significant impact amongst many different entrepreneurs and high performers. So, Dave, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, TD. I really appreciate it. It's been a while.
We're live again.
Oh, we're live. Okay.
We're live in studio.
All right.
Dave lives in Kansas City. And as we do this live right now, we're preparing for a retreat. And he and Greg Justice and Tom Dexter are in the house from our Impact X coaching group. And I asked Dave and Greg and Dex to come in early so we can do some work, including this episode here. So I thank you for coming in early.
Love to do it for you.
Thank
you.
You've always said, I don't retire, I rewire.
Yes,
right?
sir.
You've actually done that because now you have rewired yourself. Tell us more about what you're doing right now. Bring us up to snuff since episode 299. We're in the 400s now.
So I decided a few years ago I could see the end coming. I'm 70 years old. I don't feel 70. Todd, you may remember I spoke to one of your groups a couple of years ago.
That's right. Yeah.
And I fervently believe that given the nature of medicine and just general the health facilities we have in the United States at this point, anybody can live to be 100. Obviously, there are exceptions. A lot of that is determined by DNA and genetics and whatever. So the question became, when I came up thinking about the age 70, what am I going to do? By the way, I'm 70 now.
Yeah.
So 5 years ago, I started a program to say, what does next look like? And what are you going to call it? Because everyone in my profession, I was an attorney practicing for 45 years. Everyone talks about retiring, but nobody talks about what's next. Our ancestors, our parents, grandparents, whatever, retired at 65 or whatever. I just have not felt that that was part of my DNA. So I wanted to put together a program, which I have, and I wanted to put a name to it so that I could, as you would say, have a mindset that I could get behind that would really be, shall we say, the platform that's driving me forward. And I just, out of dumb luck, came up with the term rewiring. In fact, so much so that I went on the internet to see if I could trademark it. There are a lot of other people using that, so I can't trademark it. So what I'm doing now is helping people who are in the process, ages 50 to 70, trying to figure out what is next. And it's usually a business owner. It's usually someone that may not have a plan in place or has a plan but does not know how to execute on it. And that's what I'm focusing on. But also to give hope that with all of the individuals in our collective age groups of about 50 to 70, there is something else out there that you can avail yourself of. There's another reason to live. There's another reason to enjoy yourself, hopefully until age 100.
Well, you have a wealth of knowledge because when you talk about it, you don't need to be 70 to get to the point where you think, what's next? You could be in your 40s and be thinking that, or your 50s, as Dave said, or 60s, and you're thinking, okay, what's the next chapter? One of the exercises I gave Dave, and he outlined, if you remember correctly, from 70 to 80 what you want to achieve, 80 to 90, 90 to 100, and 100 plus on that. I believe all of us, each and every one of us, we need to have something to look forward to, whatever that is, whether it's personal or business, whether it's financial, professional, whether it could be your health set, your mindset, whatever. But now you're doing that and you're rewiring your life. You talk a lot about building with the end in mind, reverse engineering, if you will, on that. For entrepreneurs and business owners, even any coaches listening today of any kind, high performers listening today, what does it really mean when it comes to succession planning or exit planning? Because you've had this as a part of your life and you're a great resource, for exit planning or succession planning. What does that mean?
Well, I've seen it over the years that we get so entrenched in what we're doing to make a buck every moment of the day and night. I totally support that. I have no problem with that. But I think you go down the road long enough, 10, 20, 30 years, and you begin to wonder where you're going or what the end result is. I was fortunate enough to work with or be part of one of Dan Sullivan's classes for a year. He's a guy,
Yep.
you can look him up on the internet. I highly recommend him, the strategic coach. And what I found for myself and want to help other people with is, if you're going to try to figure out, assuming that you're maybe stuck or not sure about the future, then you want to come up with a plan. But more importantly, what does the plan look like at the end of all this? This is not to say that that's made in stone.
That's right.
But at least put together an idea where you want to go. Because failing that, and I've seen this with business owners over the years, they get to the point of uncertainty. The business is going well, but they've gotten older. What are the priorities in life? What is it that they're trying to accomplish? Or are they trying to accomplish anything? Is it just living day in and day out? Whatever it is for you is great. But by coming up with a plan and objective, you build hope, you build desire, you build discipline, you build confidence that there's a place to go and something that I want to achieve, whether it's money, family, legacy, what have you. I have not figured out how to do that, short of saying, here is the goal. I want to be here by a certain time period.
So a lot of people know that. I got to create a plan. I got to do this. But they don't do it. You've created an assessment.
Yes.
That I want to talk about later on, but you've created an assessment to really make it easy, because I did the assessment when I first started coaching with you, and I was like, this is absolutely brilliant. And I'm getting 45 years of attorney experience in an assessment on that. And that helps guide people to what their succession plan may be, correct?
That is absolutely correct. And in fact, to your point, I just finished one last week where I looked at the assessment and I put together some thoughts that I could send back to people in the way of hoping to draw out what it is that they're looking for. Because in a business and a personal context, no one has a perfect plan, and you shouldn't have a perfect plan. But can we put in front of you all of the possible things you ought to be thinking about that you can elect in or out relative to whether that's significant? And by assessing it, beginning with, let's start at the end of your life, whatever that might look like, can we build it out in 3 to 5 to 10 to 15 years to get you to that point?
Yeah.
We do an assessment to try to figure out, are you in alignment with where you want to go? And by the way, throw it all out, because I don't know with you if your direction in life is a goat path right now, or if you think it's a major interstate. I will absolutely tell you, when you start down this road, you're going to run into a 4-lane highway that you've never seen before, because typically this is not what people do as far as looking at the strategic picture of where they want to go. And it takes time and energy, and, nobody really teaches us.
So what's the biggest mistake? Because I think when it comes to an assessment, like, I'm not ready for an assessment. I'm only 45, or I'm only 55, or I'm only 65, or it's too much work. It's too much time. I don't need a plan yet. But what do you think is the biggest mistake that you see entrepreneurs? It doesn't matter what industry, what sector, when they don't plan ahead, if they don't plan ahead, what would you say the biggest mistake that you see is?
Well, I've seen a couple of things come up. I'm going to give you a good one and a bad one. And I wrote about both in my book, Quiet Plans and Exciting Results. So one guy, Joe, big devotee of Nick Saban. And he has a picture behind his desk on the wall. He laid out a plan that he wanted to execute upon and achieve at the end of his time in business. And he started about, I want to say, 83, 84, and effectively sold out 100% a couple of years ago. He put a plan in writing, and he achieved it in every level. But the funny part about it is, for all your listeners, that sometimes that plan evolves and there's a bigger discovery because you can't see everything. So even, let me give you another example very simply. A great company in Kansas City, they were looking for an exit vehicle. So I started very simply saying, let's figure out what the end is. 20 blank blank, put it up on a whiteboard. They go, what does that mean? I go, I don't know. That obviously is a date. What date do you want? So they put in a date of 2012. Great. Then I drew another line. What is it that you want? And I put a dollar sign in front of it, and they start mapping it out. We went through a process of about 10 steps to figure out what they needed, and they decided they needed roughly $4 million apiece. I said, not only will we achieve this, we will achieve this before you get to 2012. And they said, how do you know that? Because I said, with most people, without planning being in place or having not done this before, we're going after the low-hanging fruit. We exceeded that number by 2007.
Wow.
And I said, now here's the struggle, unfortunately, because we took out the low-hanging fruit. Now we got to really do some work. The good news is they sold the business. They were very happy. Instead of each of them taking out $4 million, they each took out about $8 million. So it was a success. At the same time, get a call. I will remember to this day, and TD knows me, I'll get emotional about this. I get a call from the hospital, from the daughter of one of my clients, that the client who had been trying to do succession planning and exit planning was on his deathbed, and they were crying hysterically, and he was gone. I can't do anything. I remember I'm sitting outside in a condo in Beaver Creek. There's nothing that I can do at this point. It's too late. We wind up having to liquidate the business. And so I see two success stories by some planning. And ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't have to be brilliant planning. It just has to be some planning to start you down the road versus the situation where I have to talk to the heirs that there's nothing left.
Yeah, so good. And it doesn't need to be a $10 million business either.
No.
Like, I know you work with a lot of high network individuals that have great business, but you also work with a lot of people who are just looking to say, hey, someday I want to be able to retire with X amount of dollars.
Right.
It's not that number, but the bottom line is you got to have a plan. I always joke with Melanie, I'm like, I wish I knew Dave Seitter 5 years ago. Because everyone, I believe, needs Dave Seitter in their life. You need a plan. You need to have the assessment done and not be embarrassed or not about where your numbers are, know your numbers, and how do you create that plan to get to where you want to go, whether you want to retire at 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, or not retire, but rewire.
And there's a little subcontext to all of this. Come up with a plan, because what you're saying with the plan is, this is my happiness quotient. You may decide I get happy before I get to this particular plan. Otherwise, what you're going to get is what you get, and you find more often than not, I hate to say it, more with men than women, there is a question of whether or not this is really what I want, but they never plan for it. Yeah. And again, in my experience, I've seen with a lot of people, they'll actually exceed their plan if they put it in writing.
Hey, high performers, I'm talking to you. Do you know that high performers don't grow alone? They get coached. That's right. Hey, high performers, today's the day you join the Todd Durkin High Performance Mastermind, and you're going to receive a free 3-day retreat ticket to beautiful Whitefish, Montana this November. It's November 13th to the 16th. It's a $999 value to get the clarity, strategy, and the community with other high-level leaders. Book your free strategy session today at todddurkin.com/TD Mastermind. That's todddurkin.com/TD Mastermind, and start building your success plan now. And I can't wait to see you in Whitefish, Montana in November. So break this down. And guys, this is the $1 million question. You hear about succession planning. And I think a lot of people like, well, that's for the wealthy people. That's for people that have multi-million-dollar businesses. Break that down for us. Like, how does succession planning differ than I'm selling my business? Like, what is succession planning? Focus on that if you could, and break that down for us. Like, what is succession planning?
Let's really talk about two things because they're kind of interchangeable, or at least in people's mind, to your point. Succession planning, exit planning, or retirement.
Okay, good.
Two different things, if that makes sense.
Makes sense, yep.
Exit planning is truly, I'm out of the business. Succession planning is you're setting yourself up, your company, your family, and yourself for the ultimate exit under terms that work for you, that it allows you to achieve the happiness that you want. So with succession planning, in my perfect world, if I come into you and say, Todd, I want you to keep your business in place. I want you to do what you want to do. I want you to stay in your unique ability. I want you to work 2/3 less time but make the same amount of money. How would you feel about that?
I love it.
I would like somebody to come in and take this over and run it for you so you can be the strategic.
I can breathe.
You can breathe.
That's right.
You're not doing podcasts 24/7. But can we bring somebody in to do that where you can be doing the strategy, which is where I think all great business owners want to be. Don't take anything away from great artisans. They want to be in there grinding. I have no problem. But I've found that the happiness quotient increases if you're allowed to put a plan in place with people in place, with the business in place that allows you to go do what you do best. What Dan Sullivan would say your unique ability.
I was just going to say that. I was going to say that. So if you're living, let's say 80% of your time doing your divine uniqueness, and you're happy doing that, why is succession planning still important? Because if in my mind I'm thinking, I could do this till the day I die, I'm happy, I love doing it, why would succession planning still be important?
I'm separating what you love to do from running the business. My assumption is with succession planning, you're putting people in place to do the things that you either don't like or you're not brilliant at, to allow you to go do the things that you're brilliant. Because the people that I know that are business owners, if they really enjoy it, there's one thing that they really enjoy. There's a lot of other stuff that they would rather have somebody else do. I don't find a lot of business owners are in their unique ability because they're
in the weeds.
They're in the weeds, and they feel compelled to touch everything. I say that as a practicing attorney when I was doing it for years. It's not right.
That's right.
It's not your highest and best use.
So what would be some other ways someone could exit a business besides just selling it?
Well, there are a couple of ways. First of all, we could talk about it in two terms, what I call an insider sale and a third-party sale. For most of the clients, I'd like them to think about both. But here's the deal. You probably, if you build a great business, there's probably quite a few people around you right now who are really incremental to the business that you could sell to them. There's ways to do that. We create a cash flow plan. We look at ways to help them self-fund through the business and otherwise how to buy out somebody like you. So it allows you to do what you want to do, but you're still involved. You still have some stock. You're still getting some passive income, and you can see the future. And you can also, by doing that, selling it insiders, you can help them figure out what's next. I see a lot of people, especially somebody like you in the coaching profession, would like to mentor people. So if I can get you to that side of the equation, you'd be better off. Now, third-party sale, it is a different analysis, needless to say, and you're going after, I would like to think, a device that will help the business continue as is or be folded into another business. But here's the deal. If you lose control and you sell to a third party, you're going to be subject to their whims. A guy like you will be around for a while, but after a while, you're going to be an interruption to their direction. So CEOs all get fired within a year. CFOs get terminated in about 90 days. Inside counsel, in-house counsel in 6 months. HR people out the door. So you're going to see some gutting of your company in exchange for a significant amount of money that goes in your pocket. We also have ways to take care of the people that would go out the door.
I hope you just heard the wisdom, because he just said those facts like you know them. That's 35 plus years of experience when he just shared who's staying, what the time frames are, who's going, and all of that. And Dave, I actually, as you know, in the couple of years I've known you, in five years ago, in bringing a business partner into Fitness Quest 10, Jeff, who was an employee for 10 years.
There you go.
10 years, and groomed him from front desk to busy trainer to assistant GM into partner on that, so that I can do more of how do I create impact even more, not just here in San Diego, but proliferate it nationwide and worldwide as well.
Well, and to your point, that's good for two purposes as well. You could stay involved, somebody's running it. Or if you sell, that buyer wants to know that there's someone like you who's going to take this over and run it. If you got somebody that's there for 10 years running it, you're making your business that much more valuable to an outside buyer. Either way, you win.
Right. So let's speak to our podcast listeners today. These are people who are high performers. They're leaders. Some of them move pretty fast. I love you all. If someone hasn't thought about succession planning or exit planning yet, what would be the first step that you would advise them to take to say, well, I've thought about it, but I really haven't taken action on moving closer to a plan? What would be that first step? Is it the assessment?
The assessment is a big part of it. But let's back up from there. I would like you to sit down and go, for the balance of the time that you are on this earth, for whatever it looks like, what does it look like for you, both personally and professionally? We know that we have in life, you have your individual role and then you have your business role, right? And it's important, I think, that you look at both scenarios and how do we build that out so you can achieve both objectives as best you can. If you could sit down and design, and let me use you as an example. Okay, I'm Todd Durkin. I would like to be, every hour of every day, I would like to either be podcasting, teaching, or mentoring. That's it. I'm not doing anything else for the next 5 years. In 10 years, I'm only going to be speaking of groups of the size of 10,000 or more, whatever it is.
I like this. I like where you're going.
In 15 years, okay, I'm going to be only on talk shows, on TV. I'm going to be overseeing book writing events. So can you dream to do that? Because as a place to start, then we can come back and do the assessment. The assessment is a 16-question survey that people can get through my website, davidseitter.com. Then we can go back and go like, you want to do these things. Now, let's figure out, do you have the company set up, the right people in the right places, the issues we need to worry about, income, risk management, insurance, asset protection, growth. Do we have the things in place that allow you to do what you want to do in 5, 10, 15 years? And if not, let's build that out. But it always starts with, let me discuss with you where you think you want to be. And some people come in and go, I don't know any different. And that's okay. And I may want to do this. But I'd be willing to say everybody in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s would like more time to do something, would like to have certain things taken off their plate, reduce the stress, increase the joy. That's where we go.
Guys, I'm talking to Dave Seitter today. Dave has a wealth of knowledge when it comes to M&A, merger and acquisition. Spent the better part of his career as an attorney, as an M&A attorney. And Dave, you said if someone wants to get a hold of you, davidseitter.com is the best place for them to do that. Is that correct?
It is on the website. Hey, I've got a book, Quiet Plans, Exciting Results. Got a podcast that Todd has appeared on, Show Me the Way. So there's information that you can get today that's going to help you with your decision-making process and how you're going to go forward with your life, your career, and your business.
What's great about this is you always hear me, you come to a retreat, some of y'all come to the next one in Montana, you'll see Dave there as well. But I'm always about dreams and how you dream and that this is kind of the merging of how you dream, put it on paper, and then make sure you have a plan so that you can almost legally, financially, put everything in place to prepare to how to manifest your dreams, right? So what Dave is talking about is getting on paper and doing that. But Dave, I want to throw you a curveball because sometimes life throws curveballs.
Always.
So I know you're big on continuity planning, not just planning for an exit someday, but things come up. Health issues come up, tragedies come up, transitions come up. How do you think a business owner or a high-level entrepreneur, a podcast listener here today, what can they do to protect themselves that when life throws a curveball, which it will, they're protected?
Let's always start with what I call running too deep at every position, right?
I like that.
There are very few people on the face of the earth like Todd Durkin. I don't know that I can replace him, but I can get close. All right? I'm going to be speaking on this, by the way, down in Texas in the middle of the month with a lot of you people know Kelly Watson. So we're dealing with succession planning. What we're going to focus on is, can we put into place two things? One, enough of a system to deal with risk and how we value risk. We don't eliminate risk. What we want to do is either explain it, understand it, or minimize it. We used to say in the law, with risk, you either accept it, reject it, or insure over it. That's about it.
Yeah.
You don't have any other way.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we want to do through something called continuity planning is to put into place, how can we, with the business as it exists today, know that can go on. There are a lot of things that we can do from a standpoint of an attorney. We'll do things like employment agreements, so somebody doesn't run off and take all of the trade secrets and intellectual property. If you're an owner, we'll do a shareholders agreement that says, in the event of death, disability, what I call the Ds, dissatisfaction, nobody's working anymore, divorce, dissolution, bankruptcy, that sort of thing. Let's put something in place to deal with all these categories. Is it foolproof? No, but you have a guide, and we have a system that will allow you to have a device, a playbook to deal with any of these issues that will come up. Going back as well, looking at insurance. I got to tell you, I've never been a big proponent of insurance, but let me ask you right now, do you have key man insurance? If something happens to Todd, what happens to the business? Mm-hmm. Do you have insurance that there would be business interruption by definition because you're gone? Or let's say Jeff Bristol. Okay, well, maybe we need to have a policy for that because he's gone. We have a reduction or a loss of some income, and we need the money to go find someone to come into Jeff's position, and it's going to take a while to train him up. So it's those sort of things, including like, well, I don't know if your estate plan is in place. I don't want your business tied up in court because you didn't put your stock certificates in trust, which would have kept you out of probate. So all of these are resolvable, and good planners will come in and go, let's look at all of these different things, including but limited to, I made $100 million. I need to figure out how to give it to charity. I can't keep all of it. I'm going to get taxed. If I die tomorrow, there's a problem. But I'm really wanting to see most of this money go to the Durkin Foundation or whatever it might be, or the church, whatever. Are these issues laid out, completed in writing so everybody understands? You're putting it in a place that everybody understands the rules. You're creating your playbook.
So good.
You are Coach Durkin. Here's the playbook. If something comes up, this is what happens. If the building burns down, this is what happens. If I die, this is what happens. If there are tariffs imposed, I don't know how this works, on the fitness industry, how are we going to deal with it? And it allows you to grow because as you master each of these items, when new ones come along, you're going to figure out a way to deal with it because you've dealt with the problems before. I'm sorry, I'm getting excited.
I can tell, and I absolutely love it on that. So, gosh, that is so good. There's so much content and wisdom in there when it comes to that. Is there a percentage of people that die without, like, what is the percentage of people that die without any of this? It's really, here's what I say. There are very few business owners that die without considering it. There are some considering, of course.
There is a business owner, I remember, who said, I don't want a will or trust or anything like this. This is what the prior firm. I want to leave it to the court and make them figure that out, which is a different approach.
Yes, it is.
You're entitled to this. My personal opinion is, as I always say, why are you going to go to a guy in a black dress to tell you what to do with your life? Which is probably inappropriate. I apologize to everybody. Why would you not put a plan in place that closely approximates what you want to do? My struggle with most people is they'll do a little bit of it, but not enough.
Yeah. Having known several people who have passed away and didn't have a will in place, it drives me nuts thinking, how can someone be whatever the age and not have at least a will, let alone an estate plan? Because it's like, I'll say irresponsible, but we all know we should do it, but we also think we're invincible or we're going to live forever, and that doesn't happen. And guys, I hope that what Dave is talking about today resonates enough for you to take action on, at least take the assessment plan, if nothing else. I'm going to advise you to read his book, because here you have, I'm going to say, thousands of dollars worth of wisdom, number one, on this podcast, two, tens of thousands of dollars in the book, and you need to invest in yourself to protect yourself, protect your backside, and do this, because not only does it protect you, it also sets you up for ultimate success, not just financial stress. What other kinds of stress? Emotional stress, family stress, marital stress, like all of the things that, well, finances typically involve emotion. Dave, you talk about value drivers. I've heard you say it 1,000 times. For a business owner, what are some of the key factors that actually increase the value of a business before somebody even thinks about exiting? What would be some value drivers?
So I always look at it this way. What would a third-party buyer see in your business that would be attractive to them? Okay, that doesn't mean you have to do that, but that's always one place to start. Everyone that I know, and I think some of the people get frustrated because they said, if I'd known this, I would have done it differently. But everybody that I know with smaller businesses are creating business to maximize the income that they can take out of the business. Nothing wrong with that. But there's a different way to do your finances without really changing a whole lot that shows more value in the business. So most people are S corps. Nothing wrong with that, okay? But a lot of people will run different expenses through the business. I was involved in a deal one time where a guy ran through a condominium in Vegas, even though he lived in SoCal, and also underwrote a CD for a very famous comedian and ran it through the business. Okay, the buyer comes in and looks at that and goes, if they're doing that, what else is out there? And do I have everything, have they told me everything about how they spend money? So you begin to question people on how they're running their business, kind of philosophically. There's a way to run the business to maximize profit, have a reasonable about expenses, and have a good return so that we have earnings or we have a cash flow that's substantial, that the buyer can look at immediately and go like, this is a company I want to talk to and a company I want to buy. So that's one of the issues. The other one is differentiator, okay? When people come in to buy a business, in my experience, there's a particular reason, and it's usually a differentiator. I just sold one last year. They are very unique in the industry, and it's very clear. They differentiate from everything else. What they do is so super technical, and it's in the construction-related field, and they have their product all over the United States and part of the world. That's kind of an outlier, but can you differentiate yourself from the other people in the industry? Because that sets you ahead. As you run your business, if there's way to essentially increase or maximize the profit, keeping expenses at a reasonable level so they can say they're running a good ship, good financial information. Rarely is the information complete and accurate. Rarely is all the corporate documentation complete and accurate. And that doesn't mean you're bad people. But these are the things that buyers look at. So I always look at it from the vantage point of, if I'm a buyer, what are the positives about it? What is it doing well? What is it not doing? What is unique? Is there a differentiator that puts it out there that goes like, I want that business? If I have those three things, I can go in a lot of different places. With another company recently, because of that, we were able to get them from the mid-30s into the mid-$40 million mark by showcasing some of these things. Not me, but just taking the client, repurposing existing information and putting it in a form that people can understand that. If you do that for a series of 5, 6, 7, 8 years, even better with the buyer. Now, fast forward, we're not selling it to a third party. We're selling it to our employees. They buy into this. We're sharing
an ESOP?
Well, it could be an ESOP. Sometimes it's just a straight sale. I love ESOPs. It doesn't work with every company. You want to be of a certain size. You'd like to be 50 million or more. Actually, you want to be 100 million or more. There's a lot of affiliated costs with that, but I love ESOPs with the right size. But if you show them and you're transparent about the company, what we're doing, how we're doing it with your C-suite, not necessarily everybody, okay? Yep. You show them how you're doing this, how you're advancing the business, how we're running the business, the records we keep. I think there's a lot of stability in the minds of people who might not otherwise want to invest in the business when you come to them and say, how would you like to buy some stock in the company?
So good. So good. Speaking of all this, you got spreadsheets, you got contracts, you have all these things. When and how do emotions play a role?
It's
right, because you got the money part,
Yeah.
like $30-40 million, but then there's emotions that run high. So what's that balance if there's a seesaw of the spreadsheets and contracts versus just someone's emotions?
Well, you hit the nail on the head, so let's go back in on the plan. Let's go back to the very beginning.
Yep.
Can we come with a plan on where you want to be at the end of it all? What am I dealing with primarily? The emotion. I'm not really dealing with the money.
Yeah, good point.
I'm looking at their legacy. I'm looking at how they view themselves in the business and what do they want to do. So how do you design it? I always think you go to the emotional and the person part. The money will flow in later. You can figure that stuff out. When there is no plan, to your point, I think it's what you're driving at. If there is no plan, the emotions run high.
That's right.
If you have a plan and you're consistent with the plan, then the negativity or the anxiety or the insecurity may not completely go away, but you've handled it. You know you have, and you can say to yourself, I planned this out.
Yeah, I like that.
This is what I want. What do I try to do fundamentally with all of this? I'm going to put you back in control. If I give you control on your future and what you do with your business, isn't that what people really want? TD, isn't that what you want in your business? You have a lot of people around, a lot of things going on. I want to have control so that the outcome is consistent with my vision for this business, my people, my family, myself.
So good. I liken it to a playbook.
Absolutely.
Right. I mean, I'm thinking about football. I'm a football guy. I'm like, if you go into the game with a playbook that you trust, you believe in, you're more likely to win the game. Now, the defense is going to roll a different coverage. You're going to call audibles. But if you don't have a playbook and you're out there just playing, you're going to get your tail whooped.
And somebody's going to get injured in the business context. Sick. Somebody is going to quit. Same with sports. Somebody's going to leave the company and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And somebody's going to pour mouth Shadur Sanders.
Right.
Okay, you got to deal with these things. But if you have a plan, you have a fighting chance, it'll be consistent with what you want. Therefore, you're enhancing your ability to control the outcome of events. And isn't that all we want?
Crazy question. I don't know if you've ever thought about this. In your entire career in M&A, how many transactions have you, quote, brokered? Is it hundreds, thousands?
They put together a list, and it was like 8 pages. And I didn't count them all up. I know we did.
It's got to be hundreds.
Recently, yeah. I mean, and that's not, in some cases, I did an acquisition for one company. It was really 4 or 5 little entities.
Right.
So it depends on how you look at it. But recently, I did a whole series for the last 4 or 5 years where I could show people what we did, what they sold for, and what it cost. So that's what I've done most recently. But prior to that,
are you able to disclose the range of like the total cost or price of those? Is that billions of dollars?
No, I've sold one entity to a publicly traded company. Probably my smallest deal was between $500,000 and $1 million.
Yeah.
My largest deal was about $900 million.
So you add it all up, it's over $1 billion.
Yeah, if you add it all up. Oh, yeah, if you add it all up,
That's
it's over
saying.
$1 billion. Yes, sir.
So the reason I ask is this, is I'm always like in leadership. And you look at different companies, leadership traits. What are the top leadership traits that make a sustainable company? You've had, let's say, I'll say hundreds, at least dozens, many hundreds of transactions that worth billions of dollars. What are the leadership traits that make a company most sustainable and attractive to even future buyers or successors?
Well, I would say a couple of things. I wrote about it in the book, and I said I think there are. I don't have the chapter right in front of me, but I invite you to look at it because I put together what I thought was a list of successful leaders.
Yeah.
Okay, and the ones that come to mind real quick because I can see the people that I wrote about. Vision is important. Great leaders have great vision, without question. Number 2, great leaders are disciplined. Okay. Number 3, they understand risk. And those are always my top 3. And the reason that I say that, a lot of people want to be in business. Do you have the vision? Okay. Do you have the discipline? And do you understand the risk? And that's not for everyone. If it doesn't feel right, it's okay. Maybe that's not where your unique ability is. I start with those. I've got some other criteria. The ones that I've seen that are great leaders never seem to get rattled, ever, which is kind of interesting. They always seem to be, they listen to people, they're calm. At the end of the day, they're willing to make the decision and live with the decision. If people come back and question, they go, okay, you question me. We're still, this is where we're going. Here's why we're doing it. And it's that ability in the middle of the storm that you're at the wheel and you're calm and you're going to guide everybody through, the hurricane. We don't want to have, what is it, The Perfect Storm, the movie? We want to be able to sail in and out of that madness, and that's what it takes.
I think about that. I think about, again, the field general, the quarterback, how you stay calm, cool, collected. You think of the general. I know you met my son Luke, who's going into the military, and I think of a general, whether it be in the Marine Corps, Navy, Army, Air Force, the general has to stay calm, cool, collect under pressure. They see things others don't see, but they're always that. I like those traits. Leadership is so crucial on that.
I think the other thing that goes with this, and I want to quote General Omar Bradley, because we're talking a lot about strategy.
Yeah.
And strategy is important. But Bradley said strategy is something that amateurs undertake. Professionals undertake tactics. So we're talking about a big, broad stroke here. I want to put that into context. The really great leaders have that ability to take that strategy, and put it into tactical terms that people execute on.
What is that? It's like tactics eat strategy for breakfast.
Yeah,
or something
like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you've got to have both, and a great leader has both. All leaders have, are good at some things and other things not so much.
So what would you say, Dave, as far as like someone who doesn't want to retire? Like you're a true lifer in business. You love it. You're like, man, I love the field of coaching and training, and I love when I'm with my athletes. Like, how does exit planning still apply to them? And does it apply for just people looking to step away?
Well, when I say exit planning, I'm saying exit at a, quote, owner. Being an owner, as anyone would know,
That's good.
There's a lot to it, and I think beyond a certain point, I think it's like anything else. And I'm going to make the analogy to football again. You're not going to play, Tier 1 football, NFL your entire life, but there is some value in your knowledge. So what I would ask for people in the perfect world, you don't have to own in order to have impact by saying there are things you can do. Can you, I think there is a lost art, and I say this in the practice of law in particular. Mentoring professionals is a huge event that should be going on in every firm of every profession. And I'm not sure the way that business is wired that most businesses can afford to do that. So let's go back at the end of the day. Throw out being an owner, president, CEO, whatever. What's your unique ability?
Yep.
And you gotta live it and put it in perspective. And you're in your unique ability if you use my little acronym, T period, E period, A period, T. You're in your unique ability if the time you're spending is time you want to spend. You're getting energy out of it. And as I get older, this has become a bigger and bigger issue. And then third, an assessment or accountability. In other words, you're looking back. Am I spending the time where I want to spend it? And am I spending the energy where I want to spend it? If you're not, change. Because you know what? At this point in life, I'm going to say it this way. I don't think we're supposed to use this word, but you are entitled. You've done it. But you can leave such a legacy by doing what you do best and rendering it to people who are hungry for it.
So what is your divine uniqueness?
I've okay. I think I've shared with you my pickle jar theory.
Oh yeah,
over the years.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, my pickle jar theory is we all live in a pickle jar, and I can see Todd's label. I can't see my own. So I keep guessing on it. But what my clients have said to me is you're holistic. You are very strategic. You're very people-oriented. One of my partners said, you seem to have built a lot of relationships in the practice of law. And so what I learned about 1988 from one incident was I was putting being an attorney first and a human being second. And a monumental event occurred where I'm going I'm going to put being a human being first, using my legal skills to support the needs of individuals. So I'm going to come in and help people with a variety of things. Sometimes it's law and sometimes it's not. So Todd will show up. I need my card service. Go over here. I need an accountant. Go over here. Insurance, financial, whatever it is. But we take our skill set and support people towards their goal. Then they think you're a good attorney.
Yeah. Well, I've deemed this since day one. I think we met. You're the soulful attorney.
Yeah, thank you.
The soulful attorney. But it's interesting. I don't know if you guys picked up on that. But if you are having a difficult time saying, well, what is my unique ability? What is my divine uniqueness? And you really can't answer it, because I shared this on a podcast many moons ago of when I was really searching for my deepest, this is my divine uniqueness. And it's as a mindset coach. I love coaching. I'm a coach and I love mindset coaching. Sometimes you have to have other people share with you what they think your divine uniqueness is. So,
very good.
Like Dave said, the pickle jar is great, but if 5 or 6 people say that, or I say, hey, Dave, you're the soulful attorney, you're like, you know what? Sometimes other people see your divine uniqueness inside of you. You're like, yeah, that is me. But you have the most difficult time seeing that in yourself. So if you're searching for that, maybe ask some of your closest confidants, mentors of, how do you see me? And they'll tell you. And if enough people say, you're a mindset coach, you're a coach who mentors people to live a life of impact, you start hearing those same things. Like, you know what? There's enough people saying that, yeah, that really is me at my North Star. What is that? So, Dave, I want to wrap it up by saying this is number one.
One thing to that point, if you may, just as instruction.
Please.
So we learned that through Strategic Coach. I had to sit down and write a letter to 25 people. But what I've found, and this also takes me to my rewiring part now, how I think I've evolved, is you want to look at that and look at it in context and take the information. You may accept it, you may not, but you want to develop it over years. It's not a place to arrive at and stay. You want to evolve. So when I go through this rewiring process, and I was on the phone with a buddy because he's struggling right now. And he said, well, you seem to figure this all out. And I said, why do you say that? Well, you got your book, you got your podcast, you've got your website, you do these other things, you got a certification as an exit planner. Okay, but let's look at it from this vantage point. Book in 2020. In 2021 I began the podcast. In 2022, I start the process of embedding the website. 23, 24, I'm working on my certification. It didn't happen all at once. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't put yourself in a place where I've got to figure out what am I like right now, and it's always going to be like that. Allow it to percolate and really cure, so to speak.
And I don't know if you heard that, what Dave just said, but he won't say it himself, but I'll say it for him, is as he was building his book and his podcast, Dave also has worked for a very large firm, over 500 attorneys, and was always one of the top 10 attorneys in the firm. So you think about, well, I'm busy. Well, everyone's busy. It's how you choose to use your time, on that, based on your what? Based on your plan of what you want out, right?
Right.
You're like, hey, when I'm 70, I want to rewire. I'm going to do some things. So that might necessitate writing a book, which you have a book now, you have the podcast, and you're doing a lot of coaching and mentoring along with your assessing and helping people devise exit and succession plans. So I love it.
One final thought to go with that,
Please.
just in case you're not sure, take a nap.
I like that.
We're all stressed out a little bit. Yeah. We're all we brought a lot of energy today.
Yeah.
And we brought a lot of focus. Sometimes you just need to back up and nap.
Let's go. I like it. I like it.
Just kind of put it in context.
I like it. So let's leave before we go take a nap. We got to take a nap. I guess everyone, your orders are take a nap today after you work out, of course. Right. But let's leave our audience with something actionable. So
yes, sir.
What would be something that you would say to do this week for them to get better and then get closer to future-proofing their own business? What would that homework be?
No matter what your age is, let's make it simple. It's the year 2050.
2050.
What does it look like for you? Everybody's got Todd's wheel, right?
Yeah, 10 forms of wealth.
Let's take Todd's wheel and use that for the year 2050. I'm asking you to dream. I'm not asking for concrete things that you have to get done, but let's dream, okay? Next thing I'd ask you to do is go to my website, davidseitter.com. There's an assessment for your business and for yourself. You can take the assessment. We can talk about what the results are to see whether or not, okay, you think you're on the path to where you want to be. There is going to be something called the gap between the two. There's the ideal, which is where you want to be at 2050, versus where you are now. That's great. That's not a problem. Our goal is to shrink the gap. The two will never be exactly alike, but how close can we get them?
So good, so good. So davidseitter.com.
Yes.
Take the assessment this week. That's your homework. Take it. Don't be like, well, I'm not ready for it. I'm too young. I'm too old. I'm this or I'm that. Just take it, please. You'll do yourself a favor. And when they take it, Dave, what could they expect? Do they hear from somebody after that?
While you're doing that, send me your contact information, then I'll reach out to you and we'll have a conversation about what could be next for you.
Tell him you're a friend of mine. He'll be nice and help you out.
Yes.
Trust me.
Yes.
Just take the action step. And I like the first step he had. Open up your notebook. It's 2050, and what does your life look like? And when you do that, you're going to find out all what is inside of you and the big dreams you have. And then when you take your assessment and you reach out to Dave, you're going to find out why I call him the soulful attorney and why he truly, genuinely cares for your success, regardless of where you're at or your success with where you stand. Take that assessment, and I promise you, this is going to be the playbook for your success in all aspects of your life. So, Dave Seitter,
thank you,
my
TV.
friend.
Thank you so much.
Of course, thank you. If there's anyone else that has questions, please reach out to Dave. Go to davidseitter.com. Check that out. I'll put his book and the link to that in the show notes as well. I want to advise you to please read the book. You're going to get a lot of great content and wisdom in his book. It'll be in the show notes. Check that out as well. And anything that Dave puts out, I'm telling you, it's well worth your while to read it, to listen to it, follow his podcast, subscribe to the podcast, and you are getting a lot of great wisdom from my man, Dave Seitter. So without further ado, until next time, train hard, eat right, live inspired, and go take a nap. Have a great day, everyone. Peace and God bless.
Thanks.
Today's Todd Durkin Impact Show podcast is brought to you by Impact X Performance. Are you ready to change more lives? Do you want to be part of a dynamic team dedicated to changing the world? And are you ready to step into the next chapter of your life where you can impact even more people? If so, today is the day. That's right, my friends. Impact X Performance is dedicated to be a cutting-edge facility where we can bring you fitness, recovery, faith, and life coaching all under one roof. If you're looking to create even more impact in your community, today is the day. Visit ImpactXFranchise.com. That's ImpactXFranchise.com and take a look at all of the opportunities that exist for you to create even more impact. That's ImpactXFranchise.com. I'll see you there.